Not necessarily reflect the views of WSIC.
And welcome back, everyone, to About Town on this beautiful Thursday morning. You probably are wondering, where is Mayor Washam? And that does not sound like him. That's right, because it's not. My name is Emma Mondo. I am the Public Information Officer for the town of Cornelius, and I'm filling in for Mayor Washam today. And we're so excited to be here with two wonderful gentlemen from our police department. We've got Lieutenant Crosby. We've also got Chief David Baucom. Thank you both for joining me today.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, very special week coming up here in Cornelius. I think it's a national thing as well, not just here in Cornelius, but it's National Police Week coming up next week. And I know we've got a lot of fun things planned for our wonderful officers that take care of us day in and day out here in Cornelius. But first of all, just kind of introduce yourself before we get into that topic. I know it's probably a lot we've got to talk about, but before we get started, Chief, why don't you just introduce yourself for our audience who has not met you before?
Sure. My name's David Baucom. I'm the chief of police. I've been with the department for just over 26 years. So started back in 1999 and just kind of worked my way up through the ranks and then got promoted to chief of police in January of 2020.
Awesome. And Crosby, what about you?
My name's Tracy Crosby. I'm a lieutenant with the Cornelius Police Department. I've been here for going on 23 years. Started on patrol, worked my way up through CID.
Yeah.
And now I'm a lieutenant over Lake Patrol.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both for joining me today. I know that it takes a lot to step away from PD work for an hour, but we do appreciate your time today. So, like we just mentioned, next week is Police Week. What made you guys want to do something like this? I know that it's a national thing, but what made you, Chief, want to do something like this here, more specifically in Cornelius?
So anything we can do to recognize the hard work of all of our police officers, not only here locally, but across the county, across the state, and nationally as well. We like to do that, and we always appreciate it when the town and the mayor does a proclamation. He did that this past Monday night, recognizing next week is National Police Week.
Awesome. So what does it mean for you guys? I know because being recognized for your hard work is definitely something that's special, but when, the mayor does something like that for you, that's got to feel pretty darn good. I'll let either one of you answer that, but.
It means a lot to me. We go out every day putting our life on the line. And I just think it's great to be recognized.
Right. Awesome. So let's talk about Officer White, because you and I have talked about him in the past. Just the importance of remembering him, recognizing him, even all these years later during Police Week.
Yeah, so I'm going to let Lieutenant Crosby give some of the history of kind of how we found out about what happened all those years ago. But Officer Ralph White was killed in the line of duty on December 31st of 1942.
When I was a detective, I was sitting in the CID office having coffee with another lieutenant who was retired now. And he was telling me the story about our fallen officer, and I was like, "You're crazy. We've never had a fallen officer."
Mm-hmm.
And he started telling me the story, so it piqued my interest. And I started doing some research and found that Officer White did, in fact, give his life in the service of the town. I did the research. I actually found his living children and spoke to them, and it was pretty wild, to say the least.
Yeah. What was that moment like, I think, when you realized that, that has happened, and getting the opportunity to even speak with his family? What did that feel like? That's got to be cool.
It was cool. It's kind of surreal. You're talking to a police officer or his family that, he lost his life in the service of the town, and nobody really knew about it.
Yeah.
So I felt like he needed to be recognized for that.
Of course. Yeah, and he's definitely going to be recognized. I know next week we've got a special plan for him on our platforms as well, on our Cornelius PD pages, recognizing Officer White for that ultimate sacrifice. And I don't think we can talk about National Police Week without discussing the events of last year in Charlotte.
Right.
April 29th was a hard day, I think, for everybody in Mecklenburg County.
Absolutely.
I wasn't PIO yet at the time, but what goes through, I mean, Chief, what goes through your mind as a chief of a department within that county when you hear something like this? I mean, that was a wild day.
Just trying to imagine what the officers on scene are actually dealing with when it's happening. And then, of course, from the administrative standpoint as well, and what Chief Jennings was going through. As that was occurring, I actually flipped over to their main channel and listened to it kind of unfold as it was occurring. And one of his deputy chiefs is a friend of mine, and I heard him on the radio, so I knew he was there, and he was assisting and taking charge and all that. But just everything they were going through to rescue the officers who were down and injured, and also deal with the suspect and all that. Just the coordination of all that together, and then of course, the realization that there was real loss, catastrophic loss in our profession that happened that day, and then everything that comes along with that afterwards. The notifying the families, of course, the funerals, and then all of that coincided just a week or so before National Police Week last week. So it was a lot altogether for everybody, and I can only imagine what the agencies of the officers who were killed in the line of duty went through as well.
Yeah. And I think, we are very blessed here as a department to not have had an experience like that. But I also think, moments like that bring a department closer together. Did you guys feel something like that when that situation happened last year? Do you feel like the camaraderie in the department shifted at all? Either of you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Officers were checking up on, their fellow officers, making sure they're good with everything, mentally. It was a tough time for a while.
Yeah.
And that also says a lot about our community as a whole, because, not just our community, but the communities in Charlotte and the surrounding areas and all that, really, really, stepped up, checking on not only their own officers, but all the officers in the agencies that were involved, because this had, ripple effects not only across the state, but federally as well, with one of the fallen being a U.S. Marshal.
Right. And, situations like that present themselves, they could possibly happen every day, and that we think about Lieutenant James Baucom too, when that happened a few years ago. Chief or Crosby, either one of you want to touch on that topic as well?
Yeah, so I'll kind of start. So
Yeah.
May 2nd of this year was actually the 10-year anniversary of Lieutenant James Baucom being shot in the line of duty here in town. And, again, that was a very surreal event. I can still tell you exactly where I was, exactly what I was doing when I got the phone call. And I can tell you exactly what I asked when I called in to get more details. And that was, is Lieutenant Baucom alive and is the suspect in custody? Because I knew that was going to determine where I went. Did I go to the hospital, or did I go to the scene and, start trying to help with the investigation and all that? And, that really set it close to home, how easily it can happen here in Cornelius, because that was a beautiful Saturday morning in May. So maybe we can talk a little more about that after the break.
Yeah, I would love to talk more about that, and just, the efforts from the officers that day and the agency as well. We could also touch on Top Deck and how that became a really, really big part of this department after the break. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
More About Town with Cornelius Mayor Woody Washam. Coming up on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, up around 80 with a partly cloudy sky for the afternoon, but watching the weather closely heading into this evening, mostly about 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. Scattered showers and thunderstorms. A couple storms could be strong or even severe. Main concern would be for some damaging wind or possibly some hail. So watch for that. Stay weather aware. Overnight low temperatures drop into the upper 50s for your Friday. Still a chance of an isolated shower or storm. The chance is lower and dry for Mother's Day weekend. That's your forecast for the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Ready to roll, race fans? Swing by Harrison's in Mooresville and register in person for your chance to choose your race. 3 winners. First place picks first. Will it be the Coca-Cola 600 with pre-race passes, the Bet MGM 300, or the North Carolina Education Lottery 200? Register now through May 15th at Harrison's, the Southeast leader in Carhartt, Ariat, and Western wear. Winners announced live on the Home Ad Show. Lake Norman Woman is proud to sponsor the Mother's Day Commons Market at Birkdale Village with Shop Local QC. Join us Sunday, May 11th from 11 to 4 at the Plaza for live music. Free photos with Mom from 12 to 1 and over 30 amazing local vendors. Don't miss it. Pulp Juice and Smoothie Bar in Cornelius is open for business. Drop into 9623 Bailey Road in Cornelius for a healthy smoothie today. The 500 Club in Statesville presents live music on Saturday night with a performance by My Better Half. After the concert on Saturday, come back to the club on Sunday to celebrate with a Mother's Day brunch. Golfing, entertainment, and honoring Mom are all at the 500 Club in Statesville this weekend. Peninsula Community Foundation is holding a volunteer fair on Thursday, May 8th. Join us at Bethel Presbyterian Church in Cornelius from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. as over 20 nonprofits offer volunteer opportunities for all ages. Learn about volunteering in your community at the Volunteer Fair Thursday, May 8th at Bethel Presbyterian Church in Cornelius. From everyone here at WSIC Radio, we wish you a happy Mother's Day this Sunday. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Don't just love the lake, live it. Shop LKN Local where you'll find unique apparel, home decor, and gifts with a lake vibe you'll just adore. Made by locals for locals, they'll even hand deliver to select zip codes. Shop LKN-local.com today.
Welcome home to Comfort. Family-owned, community-focused, Horn Heating and Air Conditioning is proud to have served our community for over 40 years. We treat you as family because you are family. Your comfort is our business. Visit hornhvac.com today.
Swing for Hope at the Next Chapter Station Golf Classic on September 22nd at the 500 Club in Statesville to help bring hope and comfort to children fighting cancer. Your support helps us deliver the book Luke and the Lost Bell to 1,000 hospitals. For more information, visit nextchapterstation.org.
Kane Center for the Arts. We're more than a venue. We're the heart of creativity in the Lake Norman region, bringing exceptional visual arts, performing arts, and unforgettable gallery experiences to our community. Discover the difference. kanearts.org.
Call now to speak with Cornelius Mayor Woody Washam at 844-STUDIO-4. It's About Town on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
And welcome back to About Town. This is PIO Emma Mondo here, filling in for Mayor Woody Washam today. We are lucky enough to be joined by two wonderful gentlemen from the Cornelius Police Department, Lieutenant Crosby and Chief David Baucom. Gentlemen, thank you for being here with me today again. So before the break, we were talking about the sacrifice that officers make every day coming in here. You don't know what the day is going to hold, and that happened for one of our officers about 10 years ago. His name was Lieutenant James Quattlebaum, and he was lucky enough, to survive the injuries that he sustained in the line of duty. And I wasn't a part of the department yet. I wasn't a part of town yet, but you both were. So, Lieutenant Crosby, I guess I'll start with you. Talk to me about that day for you, and what you remember just from a situation like that.
Like the chief said earlier, I can tell you what I was doing when I got the call.
Right.
I was doing yard work. First question I asked, just like the chief, was, is he alive? I was a detective sergeant at the time in our criminal investigations unit. As soon as I got the call, I left and went straight to the scene. And, of course, you can imagine it was chaotic out there at the time. My main goal was to secure the scene because I knew Lieutenant Quattlebaum had already been taken to the hospital. The other officer that was involved in the shooting was he was en route to our police department with another officer, and it was our job to secure the scene and wait on further instructions to start investigating. Ultimately, CMPD came in and did the major investigation, but we still had stuff that we had to do. I believe in all we were out on the scene for maybe 16 hours.
And that makes it so much harder, too, when it's not just a scene. This is your colleague, this is your brother.
Yeah.
Chief, you were not chief at the time, but I can't even imagine what's going through your mind. when like, this isn't just a normal scene for us. This is one of us.
I took it very personal because I was the operations captain and I was responsible for patrol. But not only that, Lieutenant Quattlebaum was on my shift when I was a patrol sergeant. So, I mean, I knew him, very well as he progressed through his career and got, promoted to lieutenant as well. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely a difficult day. Some very heroic actions by another officer on scene that day to subdue the suspect, take him into custody. And then there was other officers who were responding immediately as well that helped secure that scene, like Lieutenant Crosby was saying, until the further investigation was going on. But I just remember being there and walking through the scene and replaying in my mind what happened based on the evidence. What I was seeing based on the evidence and what must have been going through Lieutenant Quattlebaum's mind and the other officer's mind as well as this unfolded. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, a very long day, probably closer to 30 hours for me, all
Right.
told, because
Right.
once the investigation from an outside agency starts like that, it doesn't stop until it's done. So it was well into the next day by the time they had processed the scene and collected all the evidence and all that. So
So
definitely a memorable event.
I'm sure it was, and I can't imagine, myself being a part of this family now. I can't imagine what that would feel like. So I can't be in y'all's shoes, but I'm sure watching that and experiencing that was nothing simple. But like you said, there was a lot of the dynamic must have shifted after that. You think it did in the department?
Yes, I mean, I would say we all definitely got closer. Not that we weren't close,
Right, yeah.
then, but yeah, I mean, you circle around the ones that you love and care the most about, and
Mm-hmm.
aside from our personal families, that's our police family.
Yeah, right. You agree?
A lot of outreach from the town citizens as well.
Oh, absolutely. That doesn't surprise me in the slightest. I feel like Cornelius is a very close knit town anyway. Anything with PD or fire, they'll be right there.
Yeah,
So that's
very
pretty awesome.
supportive.
Very supportive town. And wow, we were blessed enough that Lieutenant Quattlebaum survived his injuries and was okay after that. Thank God. Something did come of this. Called the Top Deck Foundation. Chief, if you want to touch on that, or Crosby, please, either one of
Sure.
you. That's
Please
really
chime in
important
as
part of
well.
our
It
PD
is.
now.
So there was such a large public outpouring of support and funding and all that after that incident that as a town, as a police department, we didn't know what to do with that because we don't, generally accept donations, funds, or anything like that.
Right.
So we were really struggling. How do we handle this? And a group of individuals stepped up. The Top Deck Foundation was formed. Bridget and Don Rainey are some of the initial creators of that foundation, as well as Kim Sailors and her husband Mark. And through that foundation, they basically helped us take that funding, but then they also continue to raise money and raise funds to this day. And their goal is to basically make things better for police officers, here in the town. So some of the things that they do is an annual gift every year for officers, and it may be something small, but it's something meaningful on your anniversary, just to have that recognition. But in addition to that, they've also done a lot of wonderful things for the department as far as equipment. They helped us get our first outer carriers. They bought 2 dual sport motorcycles for us to use patrolling the greenways. Bought the helmets, bought everything to go with that. They bought an all-terrain utility vehicle that other officers who couldn't ride motorcycles could also use to patrol the greenways, and it could be used in special events. The list is almost, hard to think of all the things that Top Deck has done and continues to do, and they're just a tremendous support for the department, in this community as well, even to this day.
Yeah. So if people were interested in finding out more about Top Deck, how they can support PD, things that they can do for you guys, is there a certain way that they can do that through
Yes,
Top Deck?
So you can search Top Deck, and it'll come up through a Google search or whatever else, and it references Lake Norman because I think there may be other Top Deck type foundations, but yes, definitely if you search it, you'll see it. I mean, it has a police type logo on it, and like I say, and Bridget Rainey or Don Rainey's name will come up. So
Yeah. And you mentioned Lake Patrol as well, correct? They do things. Are they able to help with things on your end? with things with the lake?
Yeah, they do a lot for us, and like the chief said, it's hard to put on a list of what all they've done. But
Right.
yeah, they do quite a bit, all kinds of stuff. They're amazing people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this town is so giving already. I mean, we saw it. I know Baucom, you and I did when we were helping out after Helene.
Yes.
You know, we were very lucky that, you know, we were able to collect donations in town hall. Chief, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that too, real quick, while we're
Sure.
talking about giving back in town. During Helene, we saw tons of donations come in. You were part of that team.
Yes.
I was with you. We went up there and we saw the damage ourselves. When you see an outpour like that from the town, what does that mean to you now as chief? You know, knowing that they're willing to help our department that much.
It's wonderful, and it's wonderful to see that they'll not only help us, but they'll help our community and the community across the state as a whole. And you know, that was a terrible time for the people that experienced that hurricane. But you know, the public outpouring was so great that we were able to do a lot of good things with our department, and so many other departments stepped up as well. But at one point, we were almost overrun with donations during that time. I mean, I'll never forget, we loaded up every truck and trailer we could find and took them up there to different drop-off points. And when we came back that night, our entire PD was full of donations again. And we were like, well, load everything right back up and we'll go again tomorrow. You know, and that went on for several days. So it's just awesome to work in a community that cares that much about other people.
Yeah, I definitely saw, like you said, the hallways filled up with stuff. And just knowing that, you know, not just with the, you know, natural disaster hits, but, you know, top deck, everything like that, this community is willing to step up and play their part and help where they can. I think that's really exciting. Like you said, one more time, just so people know if they want to look for top deck, where can they find it?
You can search it and find Top Deck through just a normal Google search, and it'll come up.
Okay.
It's the Top Deck Foundation, and I can honestly say there has not been one request that we've asked of them for equipment, for assistance, whatever else, that they have not been able to fulfill. So I just can't say enough good things about them and the work that they do in this community.
Absolutely. Crosby,
Like I
anything
said-
from you?
Like I said, they're awesome people.
Yeah.
They just go out of their way to do great stuff
Yeah.
for us.
And you mentioned like it's hard to try and pinpoint, you know, one thing that they've done for you, but if you could think of one, if you could think of one.
The yearly anniversary gifts are awesome. Everybody looks forward to those.
I bet that sounds like a fun. Chief, what about you? One thing.
They come to us with ideas or asking for ideas for the anniversary gift, and we're so unaccustomed, even to this day, of people giving us things that we actually struggle with ideas to come up with. But no, I would agree. Just that small token, you know, to know that somebody cares, that, you know, this community cares about us and wants to give us something. It means a lot to us.
Yeah, it's nice to get, you know, a little gift here and there. It's like Christmas when people ask
it
you as an
is.
adult. It's like, because when you're a kid, you're like, oh, I want all these things.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right, coming up after the break, we're going to touch a little bit on Cornelius PD history. Very excited about this, everything from our early days and to now. Going to talk about some of our history. So we'll be back after the break.
Don't go anywhere. We'll return with more of Mayor Woody Washam and About Town in just a moment on 105.9 100.7 WSIC. Local starts here.
Well, up around 80 with a partly cloudy sky for the afternoon, but watching the weather closely heading into this evening, mostly about 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. Scattered showers and thunderstorms. A couple storms could be strong or even severe. Main concern would be for some damaging wind or possibly some hail. So watch for that. Stay weather aware. Overnight low temperatures drop into the upper 50s for your Friday. Still a chance of an isolated shower or storm. The chance is lower and dry for Mother's Day weekend. That's your forecast for the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Hi, this is Bob McIntosh with the McIntosh Law Firm in Davidson. Since 1997, we have been committed to providing our clients with competent, caring, and experienced legal services. Learn more at McIntoshLawFirm.com.
Hey folks, you know Randy Marion is the king of price when it comes to buying a new vehicle or a pre-owned vehicle. But how about king of price when it comes to the service department? Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville, Randy Marion Ford Lincoln in Statesville has you covered on tires, brakes, batteries, wipers, you name it. Any service you need on your vehicle, regardless of the make or model, come see Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville Service Department or Randy Marion Ford Lincoln Service Department today.
Have you taken the Desco Challenge? The people have spoken. Desco is where the professional goes for electrical supplies.
Hi, my name is Randy. I'm a general contractor, and I always trust the products at Desco.
See for yourself at DescoInc.com.
Are you sick of running out of hot water? Whether it's in the middle of a shower or doing dishes, cold water's never fun. Say goodbye to those surprises with a Rinnai tankless water heater from GMV Energy. This energy-efficient propane-powered solution heats water instantly, so you'll never run out again. Plus, it saves money and frees up space. Propane models start at just $295 after rebates. Visit any G&V Energy location or gbenergy.com to learn more.
Opening doors to your future. Literally. Buying, selling, or building your portfolio? Put the team at Centralina Realty to work for you. We're in the center of North Carolina and at the center of your journey. CentralinaRealty.com.
Yeehaw for rodeo season at Harrison's, the home of work, western, and wow. Whether you compete or cheer from the stands, Harrison has the looks to help you wow the crowd. Get western classics and the latest styles from Harriet, Cinch, Rock and Roll Denim, and Wrangler. Find us in Mooresville.
But one objective.
Honey, can you turn that down?
Ladies.
Honey, can you turn it down?
Ever feel like your house is shaking every time your husband watches TV?
What?
Honey, can you turn it down?
That's not surround sound. That's hearing loss. Beltone in Mooresville and Cornelius can help. With expert hearing tests and top quality hearing aids, you can finally enjoy your TV without shaking the whole neighborhood. Visit nchearing.com to schedule your free hearing test today. That's nchearing.com.
Make a splash this summer with the Harbor Hippos. Opening day is May 30th, and it's going to be a blast. Season, group, or single tickets are now available. Join us at Huntersville Athletic Park. Get all the details at www.harborhippos.com. It's time to play ball.
The best talk all day long.
WSIC.
Local starts here.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Krispy Kreme is pausing the expansion of its partnership with McDonald's. The two companies were planning a nationwide rollout of Krispy Kreme donuts by the end of next year. The companies rolled out the donuts in more than 2,000 locations, but they noticed demand dropped off after the initial launch. Krispy Kreme says the hiatus will allow both sides to refine their marketing strategies. Delta Airlines has convinced a federal judge to toss most claims in a proposed class action lawsuit stemming from last summer's massive CrowdStrike outage. It caused widespread delays and cancellations, and passengers sued, saying Delta didn't do enough to make up for it. The number of Google searches made in Apple's Safari browser is down for the first time in more than 2 decades. Apple says the decline is linked to the growth of AI searches. Google pays Apple $20 billion to make its search engine the default in Safari. And Nintendo says it expects to sell 15 million units of its new Switch 2 console by early next year. It's the first forecast for sales from the Japanese gaming giant since announcing its new Switch release. It goes on sale next month. Erica Herskowitz, Bloomberg Radio.
The number one station for people who say we're their favorite station.
WSIC.
It's About Town with Cornelius Mayor Woody Washam on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC. Local starts here.
And welcome back to About Town. This is PIO Emma Mondo here. Welcome back. As you can see, not Mayor Woody Washam. Sorry to disappoint for those of you, but our wonderful mayor is enjoying some very much needed vacation time right now. We wish him safe travels as he heads to Europe. Very excited for him. But you're stuck with me today, so I hope I can fulfill your About Town needs. And luckily, I've got some good friends of mine here today, Lieutenant Crosby and Chief David Baucom with the Cornelius Police Department. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
So we've touched on a lot so far within the hour, talked about, this being Police Week. We've talked about our fallen officer back from the 1940s. We talked about April 29th last year, and that was a hard year for us, or a hard day for us, I think, across Mecklenburg County. But right now, we've got a little bit more uplifting stuff to talk about. First thing we're talking about is our history. I know, Chief, we've got a lot of things to talk about, but you've got some details for us just about the history of the PD. We'd love to hear.
Yeah, so history has always interested me, and one of the things that I found out is that the police department has not done a very good job of keeping up with our history. So there's not a lot of records there for us. So we actually did a little project. It probably started 2 years ago where we wanted to research all of our past chiefs of police. So a captain that worked here at the time that has since retired kind of took that project on, and he went through old newspaper articles and town records and everything else. And we were able to come up with everyone that we could possibly find that had ever served as a chief of police. And we had plaques made with their pictures on it if it was available, and it's hanging at the police department now. We just felt like that was something, interesting, that we could start with as far as our history. Something else we want to do is past former officers and then also retirees. We feel like if you retire from the town and from the police department, we should memorialize that, in the department as well, so that when, someone else comes along 10 years from now and they hear my name, they can at least go see, oh, well, that's who that was.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, back in the day, the town was policed by the rural police, and eventually that evolved into the old Mecklenburg County Police. And at some point, we think in the 1940s is when the town actually hired their first police officer. And from what we can tell, it was the individual's name was James Conrad. He was hired by Mayor Ed Sween. At the time, he had no training, no uniform, no car, no equipment, nothing but an old gun that they came up with, and they gave it to him, and that was his job to police the town. In the old town hall, they had a 2-cell jail that was downstairs, and they would use that for the occasional troublemaker on the weekend or something like that. And it was interesting even going back and looking at some of the old pictures of the first police chiefs. The uniforms they wore were their military uniform. If they had been in the Army or the Air Force or something like that, that was the uniform they wore. They didn't even have a police uniform. So, but we were able to find some pictures. One of them is a former police chief, and he's standing beside just an old car, and literally it just says Cornelius Police on the side of it.
Yeah.
So, anything we can do to try to, find more out about our history, we will. And, we're trying to do a much better job of it now so that, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, the records will at least be there, and, and people can know more about it. So
that's awesome. And for those of you listening, keep an eye out on our social media platforms next week, because I can't remember if I said Wednesday or Thursday. One of those days is going to be a history day for our social media platforms. And get ready to see some really interesting pictures, especially one of one specific chief from one of his promotions a long time ago. But lots of really cool pictures. Like you said, that one of an old chief of ours standing in front of that old car. It's so cool to see just little bits and pieces. I mean, that car looks like a Dukes of Hazzard car. Like it looks real old. So
well, and it's funny reading some of the articles that he found, because they literally wrote news stories about the car that they had being broken down. And one of them, it was Old Blue, and Old Blue was broken down. And if Old Blue was broken down, then whoever the officer was had to drive their own personal vehicle, or basically had to thumb a ride to go somewhere. So it's a very rich history that we have. It's just a matter of getting it all put together for other people to enjoy as well.
Finding it all in pieces.
Yeah.
It's like one big puzzle piece. And
Yeah.
if anyone listening knows anything
Oh,
or has
absolutely.
any, family connections to PD or any pieces of history, maybe your granddad who was part of Cornelius PD way back when, let us know. Message us on our social media platforms. We would definitely love to see what pieces of history you got. Lieutenant Crosby, I know that we had talked a little bit about one of our fallen officers, Officer White. Talk to me just about the process of finding out information about him, because that's a huge piece of history too. You'd mentioned earlier that you didn't even know that had happened. It's back in the 40s, so what was it like trying to find out that information about him?
It was pretty tough. There wasn't a whole lot of documentation of it. I went back and scoured old newspaper articles and found his obituary. And Ancestry.com.
Mm-hmm.
They actually gave me most of my information, and found out who the children were and that they were still living. And we ended up finding one daughter that lived in Mount Morn, and we went and talked to her and got a little more information from it. I even spoke to Mayor Woody Washam about it, and he remembered it happening as a kid and told me about it. So it was pretty interesting, pretty wild story.
Wow. And his family's still in town, still around here?
Officer White's got I'm not sure if his daughter's still living now. That's been several years ago. And she was in her mid-80s then. But back then, he had a daughter in Charlotte and the daughter here in Mount Morn and several grandchildren and great-grandchildren. When I got Officer White recognized by the state and nationally, I had him entered into the Officer Down Memorial page and his story of what happened. We were invited and the family to attend the police memorial in Wilson, North Carolina. So we got a church van and loaded a lot of his family up and drove the 4-hour trip to the police memorial for the family. So it was pretty good time there.
That's special. That's such a special thing, like honoring him like that, especially for his family, I'm sure. And I'm sure after all your hard work trying to find everything and piece it together.
Right.
But it's got to be cool for his family, too, to see him honored that way.
Yeah, they enjoyed it.
I'm sure.
They were surprised when we knocked on the door and told them what we were doing.
Oh, I'm sure. They probably didn't even think twice about it. But that's still really cool. And speaking of memorial things, Chief Baucom, I know tomorrow is a big day in Charlotte.
Yes.
Memorial-wise. Can you touch on that a little bit for us? Just while
Sure.
we're talking about this, because I just thought of it.
Tomorrow is the Mecklenburg County Peace Officers Memorial, and there'll be a service at First Baptist Church, but there'll also be a procession from the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department to the church, involving all the agencies in the county, state agencies as well. But the focus is to recognize all the officers who've been killed in the line of duty in Mecklenburg County, regardless of what agency they worked for. You know, if it happened here in Mecklenburg County, this is a joint ceremony. So I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but there's too many. You know, that they're going to be reading their names off tomorrow. And, you know, if I had my way, there would never be another name added to that list for future ceremonies as well. But, you know, if someone hasn't experienced that, it's very emotional because there's such a public outpouring of support as well. You know, during the procession, just average citizens are standing there with American flags, you know, saluting as the processional was coming down towards the church there, and the officers are walking, and you know, it's just an emotional event even for that.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I went to an officer's funeral from Charlotte back in 2021. Officer Mia Goodwin, and just that experience was beautiful. Obviously heartbreaking, but beautiful.
Yes.
And when you see that outpouring of love, you've got people, like you said, saluting and flags and everything like that. And while we all would have our way and not have another name added to that list, it's nice that we'll all be recognized, and then our officers will be recognized. And I think it's special too because our Deputy Chief Jennifer Thompson will be there as well. She'll be doing a reading of some kind
of the names.
Of the names, she'll be reading all those names off. That's pretty awesome as a department.
It is. You know, so I'm sure that it'll be televised, at least online and all that, if anybody wanted to log in and view it. And if not, I'm sure there'll be recordings available. But yeah, it is a very touching ceremony, you know, for everyone involved.
Yep. And I'll be there as well. I'll make sure to try to get that out on social media. And like you said, share that streaming link for any of our residents who want to watch. Coming up after this break, we're going to touch a little bit on where CPD is now, our different departments, and how we continue to grow. We'll be back in a few.
Cornelius Mayor Woody Washam on the way from 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, up around 80 with a partly cloudy sky for the afternoon, but watching the weather closely heading into this evening, mostly about 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. Scattered showers and thunderstorms. A couple storms could be strong or even severe. Main concern would be for some damaging wind or possibly some hail. So watch for that. Stay weather aware. Overnight low temperatures drop into the upper 50s for your Friday. Still a chance of an isolated shower or storm. The chance is lower and dry for Mother's Day weekend. That's your forecast for the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Ready to roll, race fans? Swing by Harrison's in Mooresville and register in person for your chance to choose your race. 3 winners. First place picks first. Will it be the Coca-Cola 600 with pre-race passes, the Bet MGM 300, or the North Carolina Education Lottery 200? Register now through May 15th at Harrison's. the Southeast leader in Carhartt, Ariat, and Western wear. Winners announced live on the Home Ad Show. Lake Norman Woman is proud to sponsor the Mother's Day Commons Market at Birkdale Village with Shop Local QC. Join us Sunday, May 11th from 11 to 4 at the Plaza for live music. Free photos with Mom from 12 to 1 and over 30 amazing local vendors. Don't miss it. Pulp Juice and Smoothie Bar in Cornelius is open for business. Drop into 9623 Bailey Road in Cornelius for a healthy smoothie today. The 500 Club in Statesville presents live music on Saturday night with a performance by My Better Half. After the concert on Saturday, come back to the club on Sunday to celebrate with a Mother's Day brunch. Golfing, entertainment, and honoring Mom are all at the 500 Club in Statesville this weekend. Peninsula Community Foundation is holding a volunteer fair on Thursday, May 8th. Join us at Bethel Presbyterian Church in Cornelius from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. as over 20 nonprofits offer volunteer opportunities for all ages. Learn about volunteering in your community at the Volunteer Fair Thursday, May 8th at Bethel Presbyterian Church in Cornelius. From everyone here at WSIC Radio, we wish you a happy Mother's Day this Sunday. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Now, more About Town with Cornelius Mayor Woody Washam on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
And welcome back to About Town. This is PIO Emma Mondo here, filling in for Mayor Woody Washam as he heads off on a very well-deserved vacation. I'm sorry you're stuck with me today, but I feel like it's been a pretty good hour so far, gentlemen, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah.
Here with Lieutenant Crosby and Chief David Baucom from the Cornelius Police Department. Gentlemen, so happy to have you today. It's been a great conversation so far, and unfortunately our hour is starting to come to a close. So, we wanted to touch on one more important topic, and it's just how our department has grown over the past few years, even the past decade, past year. We have tons of different departments. Chief Baucom, if you just want to touch on some of those and show how we continue to blossom.
Sure. So I'll start kind of going back in time. When I started here in 1999, we had maybe 30, 35 officers or so at the most. And I know Lieutenant Crosby, you didn't come too far behind me. I don't know if you remember. Yeah, how
So
many
you guys
officers
have been
we had at
together
the
for a
time.
while.
Yeah, we had 4 squads with 3 officers and a sergeant on each squad.
Oh, yeah. If you were lucky, you had 3 officers. Yeah. Most of the time, it was 2 officers.
You guys have been together for a while. You guys go way back.
Yeah. But, we were in the old PD at the corner of 115 in Maine, and the new PD was, started construction not long after I started, and then we moved into there in 2002. But, not only the number of officers, but also the support staff was just tiny. I mean, we had 1 or 2 admin assistants. We did have a full-time 911 center even back then, but it had to grow, because the town was growing and the department was growing and all that as well. But today we have 66 sworn full-time positions. We have 9 telecommunicators, including the supervisor. And then we also have 9 support staff. And 2 of those are our full-time animal control officer and shelter manager that runs our animal shelter as well. So basically more than doubled in size just during my career. And as the town continues to grow, I'm sure, all the departments within the town, including the police department, are going to continue to grow as well.
Yeah.
And just the equipment that we've grown.
Oh, yeah.
When I started, we had like 6 patrol cars that run 24/7.
Jeez.
And never turned off unless you were going to eat lunch or something.
Oh, my gosh.
Somebody was in them all the time.
6 cars.
Yeah.
We got a pretty big fleet now. What do we got?
I would say we're probably around 70 cars because we have to have one for every officer, or we do have one for every officer, and then we have spares as well. So big difference.
We're getting some new vehicles with some new decor, right? And that new look.
Yes. So last year we changed our decal scheme.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to get one of the new SUVs done and then a Dodge Charger done. But as the newest vehicles we just purchased in this budget year come online, we'll be putting the new decal scheme on those as well. So you'll see more of those kind of running around town.
And if you guys haven't seen them yet,
Pretty nice.
They look clean. I'll give you that. I saw the first one and I was like, wow. Because it's just slick and it's got like that lake theme that we love so much here in Cornelius.
We wanted something different, but we wanted something unique as well, kind of like you're saying. And so many times it's easy to make decals way too busy, and we tried to avoid that, and I think we accomplished it.
I'm in the process of creating a new town logo right now. You want to talk about too busy?
Yeah, I understand.
That's a hot mess. But anyway, we've got lots of different units that make up our Cornelius Police Department: traffic safety, lake patrol. Touch on some of those, and I know Crosby, you could talk about lake stuff too.
Yeah, I supervise the lake patrol unit, the traffic safety unit, and our K9 unit.
Okay.
Lake patrol, we're down a couple officers on each unit that I supervise. We're trying hard to get those positions filled.
Right. Yeah, just get them taken care of. And I know that I saw online we've got animal control.
Right.
We're good on lake patrol, right? Or do we need one more of those? More officers.
We need a couple more on lake patrol.
Okay.
I think there's one position open on lake
I was going to ask you, because we're coming up on summertime. Lake's going to get real crowded real quick.
Mm-hmm.
What is, some of the main focuses of lake patrol as the seasons get a little bit warmer? Because I know obviously safety is the main concern, but
safety
what is
education.
Our education? Talk to me. I mean, we've got
wear your life jackets.
At all costs, wear a life jacket.
Right, absolutely. No matter what.
Yeah.
But I was going to ask you. We've got Joshua Murray Center now. Can you just mention that? Talk to us a little bit about that, just so our viewers can know.
There's going to be a lot of education opportunities at the Joshua Murray Center. It's pretty much turned into an education center. The Coast Guard Auxiliary and Float It Forward and a couple other organizations are going to be utilizing that center for different purposes on education, educating the boaters.
Yep, staying safe on the water. That's one of the biggest things, right? Right. Chief, I know we got a couple others too. Sports services, criminal investigations. Just touch on some of those departments as well.
Yeah, so I'll kind of start at the top. You've had the administration and then the command staff. And our command staff is made up of myself, our Deputy Chief, Jennifer Thompson, and then two captains, Captain Bon Griffin and Captain Reggie Van Zant. And from there, it's broken down into divisions. So our field operations division is our patrol division, and that's by far our largest division. That's where about 80% of the officers work in there. And that's the uniformed officers you see responding to calls every day. But another sort of unheard, unseen division that really helps make that happen is our sports services division. And they do all the logistics. They do all the behind the scenes. They order the cars. They order the equipment. They make sure the officers have tasers and radios and pepper spray and uniforms and shoes and whatever they need.
Everything to do their job.
Yeah. And then also within that division, they do all of our internal training, recruiting. That's where our school resource officers are housed as well. So we call that, the logistics side of the house, so to speak. And basically everything that happens other than the officers answering 911 calls kind of comes, through that division as well. So, and it's got 4 or 5 officers, including the supervisors, assigned to it. Not a very big division, but they're able to manage, for the department that way.
They have a lot of responsibilities.
They do. And well, you were recently assigned there, so no one understands how many responsibilities are associated with that division until they're assigned there. And we've got some newer supervisors there that they feel like they're drowning right now because, again, they were on the other side of the house, so to speak. And, they just knew they got into a car that worked and they drove it and answered calls. They didn't know how all that kind of came about. So they're learning. But it's definitely a very important part of the department. But also part of field operations, in addition to Lake Patrol, is our traffic safety unit. Traffic is one of our number one complaints from citizens across the town, whether it's speeding, whether it's running stop signs, whether it's reckless driving or whatever else. So we have a dedicated team that goes out and addresses those concerns, and we receive them all the time by email. There's PD complaint type forms that you can fill out online that'll get submitted to us, and we do our best. And when it comes to traffic in general, we don't rely just on our traffic safety unit. that is their primary focus. But, all of our police officers are more than capable of working, traffic related type incidents and all that. So, but we definitely do everything we can to keep everyone safe, across the town with all of our traffic enforcement. And, we understand nobody wants a citation, and that's never our goal, is just to see how many cars we can stop and how many tickets we can write. But, safety first.
Safety's key, right?
Yeah.
Got to do what you got to do,
And a
unfortunately.
lot of times it comes down to being reasonable, and 55 or 60 and a 35, that's not reasonable.
No.
Any day of the
Wouldn't say
week.
so.
Right. So, whatever the charge is.
Right.
So,
And, criminal investigations and crime reduction unit. We're lucky here in good old Corntown. Not as reckless as some places.
Right.
But just talk to me about that unit as well and their efforts.
I'll let you talk about criminal investigations
Yeah,
if you
please.
want, since you were assigned there for a while, and I'll kind of touch on crime reduction.
Yeah, we have the same crime that Charlotte has. It's just on a smaller scale.
Right.
We don't see as much of it as Charlotte does.
Mm-hmm.
A good portion of what our detectives do is fraud. We have a lot of fraud type stuff that happens up in this area. The crime reduction unit, they beat the streets. They just like the VCAT and the different teams in CMPD. Our street crimes unit do the same thing, but just on a smaller scale.
Awesome.
And I'll touch on the crime reduction unit. So that was kind of my brainchild to create this full-time unit, because so many times through the years, when we had an increase in car break-ins, business break-ins, whatever it was, we would put together kind of an ad hoc team of officers, and they may work on a certain problem or a certain focus area for a month or 6 months, but in time they had to just kind of disband. And I always thought that we had the need for this full-time unit. So that's what we've done. And, they do a tremendous amount of work, and so many times it's behind the scenes, because they're wearing plain clothes or unmarked cars. Nobody even knows they're there until they need to be there.
Yeah.
But, if we're having a lot of retail theft somewhere, they'll go in and address that. If we're having issues with narcotics or something being sold, they'll handle that. I mean, really, it is just whatever the crime of the day is. And it can be what may seem like a relatively minor crime in some jurisdictions, but it has a tremendous effect on our citizens. So it doesn't matter what the crime is, just the crime of the day. So whether it's felonies being committed or misdemeanors, we don't care. So.
Right. Really quick, I know we've got just about a minute left. We have our own 911 center at CPD, which is really unique and really incredible. Just talk to me about where we cover and just the significance of having that in our department.
So we cover basically the town of Cornelius, and then we also contract with Davidson College to provide their 911 services there. But yeah, that is a tremendous asset here in the town, and we've had that since before I started. And I hope that we're always able to continue that. We have one of only 3 PSAPs, public safety answering points, in the county. Pineville has one, and Charlotte has one. So again, just can't say enough great things about the work they do. And just like I was talking about crime reduction, it's behind the scenes.
Right.
You don't think about it until you call 911, and when you do, you talk to one of them. They do a great job.
Great. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me this past hour. I really appreciate it. Lieutenant Crosby, Chief Baucom, thank you so much for all you do for us every day, keeping us safe. And we will see you next week.